Hey guys, what's up? I'm Adi and I want to welcome you to day 3 of our video tutorial series here on Web Design Tuts. Now, today we'll be styling the home page and the blog single page. A lot of work ahead of us. Um, we're going to be writing a bunch of CSS, so hope you guys will find it useful and leave your comments. Thanks, let's get started. Right, so in day 2 we wrote the markup for the two pages, for the home page and the blog page. So this is what we came up with, just a bare naked page with just a markup, no styling at all. So let's open up Coda and start working. Now, the first thing that you want to do with any project, with any web design project, is to create a reset CSS file. Um, for those of you who don't know what that is, basically, when you start from scratch with a new project and you write some markup, the browsers have certain predefined default settings, if you like, for margins and paddings and lists and stuff like that. As you can see here, I don't have any style applied, but still the browser kind of puts some paddings and margins and some styles to to these list items. So you want to get rid of that. You want to start with a clean slate. So I'm going to use a snippet I got here. You can Google reset CSS, you'll get a bunch of results, and you can use one of those. So once you get your reset CSS in place, you need to include it in our page. So let's begin. Include CSS, comment this. So we're going to have link, rel style sheet href will be CSS reset CSS. And since we're dealing with HTML5, we can get rid of that ending slash for the link tag. And let's go ahead and copy this and include master CSS. Now let me just show you the differences between having no reset file like this and having a reset file. And as you can see, just stripped all the elements of those paddings and margins and borders and stuff like that. So you really get kind of a naked theme to work with. Okay, so going back to Coda, we included our master CSS. Let's go ahead and create it. Master CSS, and let's call this general styles first. And general styles is a section in a CSS where I like to define body, link, paragraph, and all of the other major tags styles. So let's start with body. So if we take a look at our PSD, and we'll be doing that quite a lot, we need to grab some stuff from here, such as the color information for the paragraphs and such. So let me just grab this 60, 61, 63. So we'll start with color, oops, like this. Font size is going to be 12 points or 12 pixels. And let's take care of the font family now. The font family I used for the text is Droid Sans, which is, well, not a default font. So we're going to use FontFace to import that from Google. So go to google.com/webfonts, and let's make a quick search for Droid Sans. There it is. Click on this, click on use this font tab, check bold, copy this, and then go back to Coda and include this in your head section. So let's say custom font. or custom fonts to be more exact, since we'll be including two. So link href, we'll grab this from Google, and we can get rid of this HTML5 right there. So let's go back and let's grab the other font that we'll be using, which is Oswald, which is this beautiful condensed typeface. Copy this, do the same, paste it here, and get rid of this. Okay, cool. Now we have our fonts. So inside master CSS, we're going to say font family, Droid Sans with a fallback to Arial, and then sans serif. And for those of you who don't know what fallback means, well, you can think of it as a plan B. So if for some reason Droid Sans doesn't exist or cannot be loaded, it's gonna load Arial instead, which is, well, present on all systems, so that will almost never fail. Okay, so we have font family, we have the color, we have the font size, and that's pretty much good for the basic settings. Now let's start from the beginning in the PSD and work our way down. So we see that on the top we have this kind of cool pattern, and we're going to be applying that to the actual body. So going back here, let's say background URL img, and the image, if we go to our folder here, is called topbg.jpg. So topbg.jpg, we're gonna start from top left and repeat that on X. So now if we refresh our page here, we have the font size, and the beautiful pattern. Great. Okay, next stuff is kind of positioning the logo, styling the menu, and aligning those on the center of the page. Now let's have a look. Let's have a look at our index.html, and the top header, which contains these two elements, the logo and the nav, isn't actually styled. So let's go ahead and try this. Create a new comment here, call this structural, for instance, and let's say div with an ID of top header. Okay, and let's just give this a width. Actually, no. What I'm going to do is create a new class, which is called C-align, center align, and that's going to be with 960 pixels, margin 0, auto. So 0 top and bottom, and auto on the sides, so it's going to be automatically centered on the page. Now I could have done this on the top header div and it would have worked perfectly, except we have multiple places where we want to use this, so it really makes sense to just create a class, and we're just going to apply that class whenever possible. Okay, so let's see what happens if we apply a class of C-align to this top header. Go back, refresh, there we go. Our logo is now contained within 960 pixels and it's centered on the page. Okay, so next let's actually style and position the logo and the nav. So we don't need this actually. Let's call this top. So we're gonna have a link with an ID of logo figure. So a logo figure, float left, and then ul nav float right. That's the basic start. So we have this, right? Okay, that's good. Um, Next step would be to clear those floats, because if we check this one out, design print work freebies another category, this is actually the categories bar which goes all the way down here, and it kind of came up because the floats, the left and right floats, aren't cleared anyway, so the top header container doesn't actually have a height. So to do that, uh, two ways to do it. One is to add overflow hidden to our CLine div. So we'll get this. The float is cleared, everything is just fine. The second way, not a very elegant way, is just to add a div right here with a class or a style of clear both. But we're not going to do that now. We're just going to stick with the CSS solution for now, and we'll just adapt as we go along if we need to use it. So with that done, let's measure this real quick, and that is 40 pixel in height, as you can see here in the info panel. So we need to give that top header a margin top of 40 pixels. So going back to master CSS, div ID top header, margin top 40 pixels, and nothing's happening. Why is that? Why hello, div top header, there we go. So 40 pixels from the top, and that just pushed down the logo and the menu. Right, next step, styling this this menu right here. So let's begin and call this menu. So ul nav, float that to the right, and we're gonna say nav list item. That's gonna be floated actually to the left or to the right, it doesn't matter. The point is to get them to display next to each other like this, and that's really a problem because I set float to the right. It started floating the first element, which is home. So we have all the items that we need except in the wrong order. So the solution, just float them to the left like this. So now we have the elements in the correct order, displaying one next to each other. Okay, so let's take a look at our elements here. Let's see, font size 12 points. They have a background color, which we're gonna grab right now, 2F3134. They have some paddings, which we're gonna set from CSS, some margins, and round corners. Alright, so next, go to Coda, and let's target those list items. So ul nav list item A. Target those anchor tags, I'm sorry. So we're working with the links actually. Let's see how we can start. Well, actually we can start in the general style section by setting A to have text decoration none, and a hover to have text deco underline. Just some starting styles here. Okay, so going back, UL nav list item A. So we'll start like this. Color will be white. Background color will be the one that we just copied. Font size is going to be 12, so we don't need that. 12 is default. Text transform will be uppercase. And let's see what else. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay, looking good. Looking good. We need to add a border around them, around borders. So start like this. Border radius 5 pixels. And let's compensate for Moz, for Mozilla and WebKit. So Moz border radius 5 pixels, and then WebKit border radius 5 pixels, and we're gonna have this. Right, let's go ahead and space them. Margin right, or actually margin left 5 pixels. 5 pixels, there we go. So there'll be kind of distance. And then let's add some paddings. Let's start with 10 pixels and work our way from there. And the top of the link seems cut off. Let's weird. Let me check. So we'll have color, background, text transform, border, margin, padding. Why is this happening? 5 pixels, still cut off. Let's have a look at our index here. Top headers, you'll see a line, and see a line has overflow hidden. Hello. Okay, so that's this is what's happening. Setting a padding to a link apparently just kind of overflows outside of the parent container. So because we have overflow set to hidden, that extra bit is actually not shown, it's cut off. So if we remove this, for instance, just delete it, let's see if I'm right. Yep, there we go. That's the full link right there. So we're gonna have to find another solution for this. So let's see what, well, actually the only solution would be the second one, which doesn't involve overflow hidden, and that is by using a div with a class of C both, which is clear both. So let's add that. Just an empty div, and then go to master CSS and create a new class here for C both. Clear both, like this. Clean this up just a little bit. Alright, just to make it prettier. Right, so now refresh, the floats are cleared and the menu is as it should be. Okay, so it seems quite big to me actually. Let's reduce this padding to 8. A bit better, and maybe 10 on the sides, maybe 12 on the sides. Something like this. I think something like this works. And actually, let's try with a font size of 11 pixels just to see. I think 11 is the correct choice here. Okay, good. Next step in styling is getting rid of the hover state here of the underline. So go down here, you will have list item A hover. So we're gonna have text transform none, and then on the actual hover, let's change its color. So color, oops, color is going to be something else. So let's see if we have a color here. Maybe use something like this. Let's try it. B, C1, C3. Let's try this, see if it's obvious enough. Well, it's obvious enough, except it doesn't work that well. So you will have list item A hover, text transform. Sorry about this. Text decoration will be none. There we go. Gallery page, full width, and I quite like that color. Okay, and let's try to make it a bit cooler, right? And we'll be doing that using some CSS3 transitions. So to do that, let's add a comment here that says CSS3 transitions, and we're gonna start like this: transition, and the first argument is the property to be transitioned, and in our case it's color. Next, the duration of the transition, 0.2 of a second, and the last one is the effect, ease in out. That's the effect that we're going to be using. And there are a bunch of other effects. You can go ahead and check the documentation for the transition property, so you'll find out what you need there. Next, let's compensate for Mozilla and WebKit. So Moz transition, and then WebKit transition, something like this. So now refresh, and this is what you get. Very nice. Right. So the last thing that we need to do on the menu is kind of push it down and align it with the logo here. So usually I would just measure the logo and wrap this in a paragraph or something that will have that particular width, right? It's the old vertical line trick. Set the height to a static value and then set the line height to a static value. So that way the content inside that paragraph will align vertically. But I'm not going to do this here because this is just a placeholder logo, so your actual logo could be, much higher than that. So what I'm going to do instead is just kind of set the margin top of this and then just kind of align it. And when you set your logo, you might just go ahead and tamper with that margin. So to do that, let's see, top header margin UL nav. We're gonna do this: UL nav margin top about 10 pixels, I think. Let's see, 10 pixels. That looks pretty good. I like it. Oh yeah, I think I'm gonna keep that. Maybe 12, something like this, 12 pixels. So we get this. Alright then. And I just noticed this kind of weird effect on a refresh. The color is the first displayed color is this default blue, and then it turns to white. I wonder why it does that. It's kind of weird. Let's try and set the a different link color, see if that will help. So for that, let's create a quick section, call this color info. A color is going to be this 12B 7DE. So let's see if that works. No, it doesn't work actually. This is kind of a strange effect. Why is that happening though? Let's take a look at our code real quick. See if we messed anything up here that would cause it. So we're including our fonts and then our style sheets, ULID nav, master CSS. Let's see. Clear both, text decoration, underline. UL nav list item A. Could it be caused by the transitions? I don't think so. Let's just try it. Oh, it is caused by the transitions. Why is this happening though? Because it shouldn't happen. Transition, the syntax is correct. 0.2 seconds, ease in out, and then we have Moz transition and WebKit transition. This is so weird. Never had this happen before. Let's try it in Safari just to have something to compare it with. Safari doesn't seem to have any issues. Maybe it's just a Chrome bug or something. Let's also try it in Firefox. It did happen to me before to have issues in Chrome, like very kind of weird issues. Well, Firefox seems to work just fine, so I'll just presume it's a Chrome issue for now. If it's doing the same thing kind of later on, we'll just have a look at it then. Alright, so the next step, let's open up our PSD here and check this one out. So we have basics, we have the logo, we have the nav. The next step would be the slider, but the slider we're going to be saving that for day 5 since it's very JavaScript oriented. So we'll just use a placeholder for now. So um, let's actually grab this image right here and use it as a placeholder for our slider. So copy this 960. Doesn't have to be absolutely precise um, since it's just a placeholder image. So save this as a PNG, doesn't matter. So save it as a placeholder image, call it slider placeholder, just so we know what that's all about. So let's grab this kind of background color for the slider, EF, F2, F5, go back to Coda, and create a new section, call it slider. So we begin like this. Let's see, nav slider section. So div id slider section, and let's see, we're gonna have a background color like this, and then some top and bottom margins, borders, I'm sorry. So grab this color DDEO-E3, border top 1 pixel solid, this, and the same goes for the border bottom. So currently our slider looks something like this. It's just the borders because it has no content. So let's go ahead and add just img source, img placeholder, slider placeholder png. Right, alt, set an alt to slider, something like this. Alright guys, let's have a look. And there is our slider image. So now what we need is paddings. So let's grab the marquee tool to quickly measure this, and it says 22, so we'll just round it up to 20 pixels. So padding 20 on the top, 0 on the sides. And the next thing that we gotta do is center it. So for that, go here and say class CLine. So now it's centered, but the problem is the background, which we want to span the entire page, is now contained within 960 pixels. So doing this won't work for us. Instead, we're going to use a div with a class. Let's do this instead. Div class CLine. And we'll just wrap the content inside this div. Okay, so now refresh. Our background is kind of spanning the entire width, and our placeholder image is in place. So now we kind of have this missing distance, missing padding here on the top, and a quick way to address that is going master CSS and setting a margin bottom as well of 40 pixels for top header, like this. And that didn't work. And it didn't work because by setting this to 0, it overwrites the auto margin for the CLine. So it's not going to be centered anymore. So to do that, simply change this to auto. So now it works. Alright, next step. Let's go ahead and style this category base, this category bar, sorry, and the breadcrumbs, and then the this little search bar right here. So let's grab this base color 41, 43, 47, and let's see what this is called. Div with an ID of categories section. So let's start with this categories bar, call it. So div categories section, background color is going to be this. Check it out, looking good. And then the next step, we need to center these so that they will align with the logo and the slider. So to do that, go back here and let's wrap this inside a div. So div class CLine, and CLine. Okay, something like this. Let's check it out. Looking even better. Now everything is contained within 960 pixels. Alright, next we need to float this to the left and this to the right, the little button. So let's see, IMG, let's give this an ID of toggle button, for instance. So we're gonna have div category section UL, float this left, and then we're gonna have a with an ID of toggle button, float it to the right. Let's see what we have. This is not exactly what I expected. So let's see what is going on here. So float left, float right. Let's go ahead and category section. Let's clear those floats. So now this is floating nicely to the left, but this should be all the way here on the right side. So why isn't that happening? Float left, float right. Let's check this one out. Oh, there we go, because the ID is actually set to the image and not the link. So now this is where it should be. Right, next, let's see what we have. These should be one next to each other. So let's do this. Categories, section UL. let's do this. Div category section UL list item A, and actually I think it just makes more sense to float the actual link to the left. Let's see if that works. Yep, that works just fine. So yeah, I'm gonna use this. So floating the actual links to the left instead of the whole list. We don't need this floating. So let's begin styling those. First of all, color is gonna be white. What else? Text transform, uppercase. I think these were uppercase. Yep. Font size 12 pixels, so that remains default. Let's see how they look like. Alright, let's add some padding. So, padding, let's start with about 10 pixels. Oh, that's not enough actually. 15 pixels. And that's quite good actually. So, the next step would be to add this border 818389. So let's say border right, 1 pixel solid. Check it out, and that looks pretty good, except we could do with just a little more lateral padding. So let's try 20 pixels on the sides, something like this. I think this works pretty well. Okay, next would be a hover state. So let's copy this, a hover. So we need to get rid of the underline, text deco none. Okay, and we should have kind of a darker color for this, and for that darker color I'm gonna use this black or dark gray, 2F3134. So text decoration, background color, something like this. Let's check it out. Very cool. I like that. So now, since we used kind of a nice smooth effect here, let's go ahead and use that on the category bar as well. So go here, let's add some transitions, and go ahead and copy these. And now the only difference from the transitions on the top is the element that's transitions, or the property that's transitioned. In the case of our menu, it's the color, but over here it's going to be the background color. So change that, background color. There we go. Very cool. Okay, that's looking very good. So looking back at our PSD, we notice that we have some separator lines on the left and on the right here, and normally we would just go ahead and apply those um, to the list here with the border left, and to this button right here with the border right. But I don't know, it just seems a bit not too elegant. So instead we're going to apply it to our CLine div, since that spans exactly um, that distance, if you know what I mean. So category section div C align, and that's the correct way to target it. So we're gonna have border left 1 pixel solid. Copy this. Same goes for border right. Okay, so let's refresh, and it's not working. So why isn't it working? So category section border left and right 1 pixel div for the class of CLine. Div class CLine. I don't understand why this is happening. Is it Chrome by any chance that's doing this? No, Safari doesn't show it either. So it's probably just a typo. I'm sure you guys have spotted it already. So border left, right, 1 pixel solid. Very weird. Very, very weird. Why is it doing this? Is it the overflow hidden, I wonder? No, it isn't. Let's fire up Firebug just to check things out. So CLine, we have border left, we have border right. Let me just try something real quick. No, it's not that. So apparently this is showing a border here. I think I might have an idea, so let me just do this real quick. Yep, that was the problem. Okay, so what was happening is I had overflow hidden set to the category section div, so it was clearing the floats nicely until I wrapped the floating elements inside CLine. Now it was still displaying properly, but CLine didn't have any height because it had floated elements inside it and nothing was clearing the floats, so it wasn't showing any borders having no height. So I fixed that by uh, introducing a div class cboth right here inside the CLine div, and that took care of it. Okay then. Alright, this is working properly. Let's check out this button right here. It kind of needs to be on the left and kind of pushed down a bit. So let's check out the actual values here. So we have 15 on the right and then about 14, so pretty much the same thing. So go down here and let's say margin 15 on the top, 15 on the right, 0 and 0. Check that one out, and that is way too much. So margin, let's try 15, let's try actually 5 on the top, maybe 10, maybe 8. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna keep that and maybe give it a padding of a margin of 20 on that side. This is really up to you. You can leave it at, you can make it 10 if you want it to be closer, and I think I will just leave it at 10 because it kind of looks like it's kind of centered there, real nice. So with this done, it's time to move on to the breadcrumbs section right here on the bottom. So quick look at the PSD. We have some borders here and some borders on the bottom, and then on the right side we have a search input. Right, so first thing, grab the color of these borders, DDEOE3. Call this breadcrumbs, div breadcrumbs section. We have no background, but instead we have some borders. So border bottom, 1 pixel solid, and give it that value. Okay, looking good. And the next step, this has to be aligned on the center of the page. So we're going to use the same thing, a div with a class of CAlign, like this, and like this. Okay. And this is actually very similar to what we have here, because we have two floated elements, this paragraph right here and then the actual search form. So just to be prepared, grab the class, the cboth class, and pop it in here just to clear those future floats. Okay, so let's see. Breadcrumbs section. Paragraph is going to be floated left, and then a form with an ID of search form. We'll float this to right, like this. Refresh, check it out. This is here where it should be, and this is where it should be as well. Okay, looking good so far. Now let's add some paddings to the actual breadcrumbs div right here. So border bottom and padding is going to be, we'll actually add just a padding top, and that's going to be around 20 pixels, I think. Let's see if that's enough. That's a bit too much. Maybe 10. And 10 actually looks like the better bet. 15 maybe? 15 actually looks even better. Okay, the next thing is going to be this. Div, breadcrumb section, div, CLine, just to add those lateral borders, just like we did here on the top. Okay, and the color is going to be DD E0 E3. So let's check it out. I was gonna say looking good, but it's not looking good. So why is that happening? That is happening because of the padding here. And the padding actually needs to be set to the paragraph. Let's test that theory real quick. Yep, there we go. So it needs to be set to the actual paragraph. So actually, let's not use paddings, and let's use a fixed height, just because we need this paragraph to be centered vertically on this. So let's use height. Let's see what height this is. About 50 pixels. So minus the text, let's call it 45 pixels. And then line height, 45 pixels again. Check it out, looking good. Except this is 11 points, and this actually has a different color. So font size 11 points, color, that. There we go, totally different. Okay, good. The next step would be to kind of push it to the right so that it's gonna align with this design section right here, with this text, I mean. So to do that, let's check out what kind of padding we have here. So 15 pixels, I'm sorry, 20 pixels lateral padding. So let's do the same here by saying margin left 20 pixels. Check it out, looking good. Okay, next would be styling this input form, the search form. So form, search form, form, search form, input, type text. All right. First of all, get rid of the borders. Border none. Okay. Let's grab this background here. EFF to F5. So background is going to be background color, let's say. And the border, actually the border is going to be something like this. Border left, because we just need the border left. Because the border bottom is already set from the breadcrumbs div, and the border right is already set by the CLine div. So we just need the border left. dd E0 E3, one pixel solid like this. Let's check it out. Okay, looking good. Next, it needs to have a height, and it's going to be the same height as the paragraph. So 45 pixels, looking good already. We need a lateral padding here. So let's add padding 0 on the top and about 10 pixels on the sides. So we get this. And let's see what else. We need a width for it. Now for width, notice that in the PSD, the search input is the same width as the sidebar. So bring up the guides. Let's make a quick measurement. It says 257, but it's gonna be 260 just to round it up. So width 260 pixels, from which we need to subtract 10 plus 10, 20, which is the lateral padding. So it's going to be 240 pixels. Something like this. Alright, looking good. And the last thing that we need here is to get rid of this kind of outline that Chrome does. So let's say actually this is going to be a style that's going to be applied to every single input type text, right? So grab this, create another section somewhere all the way down here, call it form styling, input type text, outline set to none. Cool. And this little trick was actually suggested by one of our readers in my previous tutorial, so thanks very much for that, mate. Let's move on now. We got the logo, we got the menu here. Now this is actually a drop-down menu, but we're going to be dealing with that in day 5. So we got this, we got the slider placeholder, which will be dealt with in day 5 as well. The category section, the breadcrumbs, and the search form. And now it's time to move on to, let's see, to the main content, which is the blog articles and the sidebar. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's start off by going to Coda and let's create a new section here. Let's call it blog posts. Take a look at our HTML structure. So we have a div with an ID of main section, and then main content section, which holds the articles apparently. Okay. And then pagination, and then sidebar. And then we close the main section. Now, the first thing that we need to do is align these, align the blog posts and the sidebar to the center, and we need to wrap those inside a CAlign div. Except I don't really need this to be called main section, so rename it to CAlign, and now we should be able to see them aligned, but we don't. Why is that? See, div with the class of CAlign. There we go. So we have these, and then the sidebar right here, which we need to float. So let's go ahead and do that. So main content section, so div main content section, float it to the left, and it's actually a list. OL sidebar, float that to the right. Okay, and somehow they're working, but they're not working quite well, and that's because we haven't set any widths for them. And let's go ahead and do that. The main content section will have a width of, bring up the guides, let's measure this, 655. Let's round it up to 660 pixels. Okay. And then that's going to have a margin right of, was it 40 or 50? It was 50. So margin right 50 pixels. And the sidebar is actually has a width of 260, if I remember correctly. Yes, 260 pixels. Okay, so let's do a bit of math here. That's 710 with 260. That's 970, and that's not what we want. Maybe 650 right here. All right, let's check it out. See if everything adds up. Yep, this looks pretty good. All right, next we need to clear these floats. So easiest way, just go down here, main contact, UL, sidebar. I think this is the correct place to use that. Yes, indeed. So by using that, we cleared our floats. Okay, next step would be to just push down the elements, and let's see, content section, C-line. Now, because both of these blocks aren't contained within the same parent, we can't actually set a margin top for a single element. So instead, we're going to do this. Margin. We're going to set margin top here at 40 pixels. Right is going to be 50 pixels, 0 and 0. And again, margin top 40 pixels. So what we did is set individual margins to the post list and the sidebar. So we got this. Alright, good. Next step, we need to float these to the left and the actual blog post to the right. So let's see that. So UL with an ID of articles, and then each article has article meta and article body. Alright, good. So paragraph, article meta, this will have a width of 100 pixels, I think. Yep. And a margin of 40 pixels. So width 100, margin right 40 pixels, and it's going to be floated, float left. Div class article body will have a width of, let's see, 650 minus 140, that's 510, right? So 510 pixels, float right. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, looking good. Looking good so far. Article meta, text align right. So we're gonna have this. Okay. And I think, yep, slightly lighter color and 11 points for the font size. So font size 11 points, color is gonna be this. Let's check it out. Looking good, but we kind of have all these items just mingled up here, and that's because we're not clearing the floats anywhere. So to do that, let's see, UL articles list item overflow hidden. Let's see if that does the trick. And yes, it does indeed. So by setting overflow hidden to each list item, that each list item is basically an article that has an article meta and an article body. Okay, so now with that done, let's add some line breaks right here. So BR, and you can use them like this, or you can use them like this, it works, or in HTML5 you can use them like this and they still work. So I'm just gonna use them like this just because I'm kind of familiar with it. So this way we get the design that we want. And I've just realized I haven't set a line height for the paragraphs. So let's just do that real quick. So paragraph line height, I'm gonna set it to about 1.4 amps, I think. Let's check that one out. 1.4 amps, and that gives us a pretty nice spacing between the lines. Yeah, I'm gonna keep 1.4. Okay, let's see what else. So quickly, let's just copy this and paste it in. Okay. Okay, looking good. And now the next step is to style the blog post, the headings, I mean, and we need some distances here between the image and the text and the heading above it. So let's go back here to the general styles and set some styles for the headings. So H1 all the way to H5. Let's set font family to Oswald with a fallback to Arial, and then sans serif. And let's set the font weight to normal actually, or H1, H4, H5, oh no, it's already set in the reset CSS files, so we don't need to do that here. Okay, so font weight, Oswald, font family, and it's gonna give us this. Next, let's make those uppercase. So text transform uppercase, so we get this. Good. And then we kind of need to set individual sizes for them. So H1 font size is going to be 20 something, 20. This is H1, so we're going to have 22 pixels. So H2 is going to be 18, I think. H3 16, H4 14, H5 12. And we can do an H6 with 11 or 10 or something very small, but I'm not using those in my theme, so no need for that. And let's see what it looks like. So these look pretty good. These look pretty good. Okay, I'm happy with it. Next, let's see what else. Blog post titles. These should be dark colors. So scroll down here. Article body. So div article body, and let's target those H2s. Color is going to be this, and also let's set a margin bottom for them. So margin bottom, let's say about 30 pixels. Refresh, check it out, and everything is cool except for the color. Now why isn't the color working? Let's have a look at our HTML here. So article meta, article body, H2A. Okay, so H2A here. We need to target the actual anchor tag and not the H2. So now we have the actual color. And for some reason, margin bottom doesn't work very well with anchor tags, so instead let's just do this. Div article body h2 margin bottom. Okay, something like this. So let's check it out, and that looks pretty good. Okay, next we need this image to be pushing down the text, and we're going to do that. Article body img, same deal, margin bottom 30 pixels. And now that's pushing down the text, but for some reason this just seems so big. It's too huge. Height 30, height 30. Alright, let's leave it at 30 for now. We'll just come back to that if we think it's just it's too big of a distance. So you're probably wondering now, why didn't I set margin top and bottom for the image? You know, you would just change properties to one element and not two elements like we did here, right? So margin bottom and margin bottom. Well, to answer your question, what if there is no image here? Then you wouldn't have a distance between the heading and the text. It would just be like clamped together. So just to prevent that, if there isn't any image, the text will still be pushed down by the margin of the heading, and if there is an image, well, it's pushed down by the margin of the image. Okay, so with that done, if we look at our PSD, we see that we have quite a bit of space between the individual blog posts. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add a background. I think this is the correct way to do it. Let's see, background URL img, and what is this called? Apparently yesterday I forgot to cut out the separator from the blogs, so let me just do that real quick. Let's see, yep, this is the one. Its width is 655, and the width that we need is 650. Alright, no problem though. Grab this, duplicate it into a new document, okay, and just go ahead and trim it, transparent pixels, so we get this, which is one pixel high by 655, and now you just need to cut it, to cut that excess from the right. So go to image again, canvas size, set the width to 650, and set the anchor to left. So the crop will happen starting from the right. Click OK, click proceed, and now we should have a proper separator. Save this as article sep or article separator png. Okay, so background URL img article separator png, and it's gonna be left, bottom, and no repeat. Let's check it out, see if we did the correct thing, and yes, we did. So now every single article is kind of separated by this line. Now we need to add some distance between them, and the way to do that is by using a margin bottom of 30 pixels, and that's going to push the next item down like this. There we go. And next, padding bottom 30 pixels, and that's going to push the content inside the article up like this. So we have a very nice separation here. Okay guys, let's see what else is there. So we have the blog posts, we have these on the left, which are good, and then let's go ahead and style this pagination effect here. So actually, before we do that, I just realized something. What if we go to our blog post and we add another paragraph, let's say just a big paragraph, something like this. Refresh. So theoretically, here we have two paragraphs, but they're not kind of separated um, like you would normally expect. You know, when you see two paragraphs of text, there is a bit of distance between them. So that's because we didn't set any margin for the paragraph. So let's go down here, let's go up here and set margin bottom 10 pixels for each paragraph. So let's go ahead and refresh that, and now you can see that we have one paragraph and the second one, and they are very clearly separated. Okay, and that looks pretty good. Now there are a couple of things that we need to consider here, and already we can see a problem on the breadcrumbs. So because we added that extra margin, the content is now kind of pushed up, so we need to address that. Go to breadcrumbs, breadcrumb section, paragraph, and search for the margin here. So we have a margin left. Delete that and set 0, 0 on the right, 0 on the bottom, and just 20 pixels on the left. So now refresh, everything is back to normal. Okay, let's see where else we could have problems. Well, the most obvious place is here, because we already have a padding for the element which pushes up the paragraph, and the paragraph has a 10 pixel margin of its own. So we can either go down here to the article body and set, you know, article body paragraph margin bottom 0, but instead of doing that, a simpler way is just to change the padding bottom to 20 for the list item. Okay, and that's gonna just bring things back to normal. Okay then guys, so we were styling the the pagination. So let's call this, nah, let's not make another section for it since it's not that big of a deal. So we have, what do we have? UL with an ID of pagination. So UL pagination. First of all, we need to push it to the right here so that it's gonna align with this. So we're gonna say margin left 140 pixels, like this. And if you're wondering why 140, well, the article meta here is 100 pixels wide, like this, and then another 40 margin right, so that's 140 in total. What else? List items, they're gonna be displayed inline, so we'll get this. And let's see what else. Background color EDEF F1. And actually those are going to be the links, not the actual list items. So UL pagination list item A. Background color. Also the color is going to be something very dark, I think. Yep. 2F3134. Like this. Let's check it out. Looking good. We need paddings. Let's try the paddings that we used on the menu, which are 8 and 12. Something like this. Yep, I kind of like that. And of course we need round corners. So let's just quickly copy this to save time. Okay, looking good. And next we need to tamper with the hover state, so let's go ahead and copy this. Hover. Text deco none. And the hover is going to be something like this. Background color. Color is going to be white. Okay, looking pretty good. And we kind of have one of the items that it has an active state. So A with an ID of current page. So UL pagination A hover and A with an ID of current page. And we can put this right after the A hover because they have the same style. So refresh, and apparently it's not working. I think we need to target it more precisely, so let's see if this will do. Yep, this will do the trick just fine. Okay guys, so this is the pagination, and let's add some CSS tree transitions since you know we kind of did that on the other elements, and we need the background transition as well. So copy that. background color, 0.2 of a second, ease in out. Very cool. Alright then, so this is done for the article list. And next, let's take care of this sidebar right here. So to do that, let's see if we have, oh well, sidebar. Okay, let's take a look at the structure. So we have a list, and each list item is actually a sidebar widget, right? And it has an h4 and then another list. Alright, so going back to Photoshop, we see immediately that we need to add this margin bottom to the headings. So let's go to CSS, and we're gonna have the following. OL sidebar h4 and we're gonna say margin bottom 30 pixels, and that's gonna push down the lists. Okay, next let's style these lists. And if we take a look back here, we have a class of 2-column list to each of the individual ULs. So blog posts, let's actually create a brand new category here and call it sidebar, just to have things organized. So copy these. Okay, so we're gonna have a list with a class of 2-column list. And let's see what style these have. First of all, color of the links be C1, C3, which is our very light gray, and that's going to be set to the anchor elements. So color is going to be this. And this is actually a class, not an ID. Okay, there we go. And let's see what else. We need to split these two into columns. So the easiest way to do that is this. Width, we're going to set 47% and margin right 3%. And we're going to float each anchor tag to the left. And let's see if that's, yeah, that's working very well actually. Okay. Next step, add some borders. So grab this this color EEFOF2, and let's see, border bottom 1 pixel solid. Let's check it out. Looking good. And the last step is just to add some padding. So padding, let's see what, let's start with 10 pixels, even though I think that's just too much. Yeah, that's just too much. And I've just realized that we set the width to 47%, and that's not actually very good because we can't actually put a padding to it. It will just be too big. So what I'm gonna do instead is take out the lateral padding and now they're working just fine. So let's see if we need I think we can do with just a little more space, so with just a little more right margin, so 45 and 5, and you can see this gap here. That's the 5% margin right. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. I think they look pretty good. And the same thing goes for these right here. Okay, so maybe try a bit less, like 7 pixels of padding, maybe 8. Okay, yeah, I think I'm gonna leave them at 8. Right, next step is just to push down every single list, every single widget, sorry. So we can do that by saying ul 2-column list, and we're going to say margin bottom of 30 pixels. And let's see if that works. And that doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Let's bring out Firebug to see what the heck is going on here. So ul, and it has the margin bottom of 30 pixels. Why is every list item, why does it have a height of 0? Two-column list, 260 by 0. Oh, hello. Hello. We are floating elements inside those lists. We're floating the actual anchor tags, and the floats aren't cleared anywhere. So overflow hidden, and that should solve it. Yep, there we go. So what happened there was we had floated elements. The parent didn't have a width, a height, I'm sorry, so the elements were kind of hanging around its bottom edge. So yeah, by clearing the floats, everything went normal, and we could apply that bottom margin. Alright, so let's see, this doesn't look quite well. Let's measure up these distances here. So we have 30, and then we have 40. I see, so even bigger. So according to our PSD, the margin here should be 40 pixels, which is quite nice, except we have such a huge margin here, and that's because, let me see, margin bottom 30 pixels. Yeah, we have a 30 pixel margin for the H4, which was fine until we set a padding top of 8 pixels for the actual lists, so that pushed them down even further. So let's go ahead and address that real quick. Change this to 22, so 30 minus 8, and as you can see, that just aligned the the links to this top part right here. So now it looks kind of good, so I'm quite happy with that. You know, there it's funny how you kind of start from the PSD and you have all the measurements there and stuff, and it looks good. And when you get to the actual coding part with the HTML and stuff, you kind of have to modify some stuff like the distances and the measurements, because even though in the PSD we have 30 pixels here, in the HTML when it's actually rendered I still think it's too big. So what I'm gonna do is just drop that to about 15 pixels, something like this, and that looks a bit better. Now we also need to drop the margin for this element, just so that the elements here can align properly. So let's go to the article body H2, and then we changed that from 30 to 15, so let's try 15 pixels. And that doesn't align very well, as you can see here, because we also have an 8 pixel padding. So let's go back and change this to 23. And as you can see already, they are kind of aligning very nice there. And I'm going to do the same for the IMG. Instead of 30, I'm going to use 23. Okay, and that just looks just a bit better. And it's really up to you, you know, when you code it, if you want more distance, if you want it to be cleaner and you want more white space, then you can play around with the margins and paddings. Alright, for now this will work just fine. So we have the archives, categories, we have the list. Next thing that we need to do is the next type of list that we have here, which is called, which isn't called anything yet. So let's do that. Class, let's call it full width list. And I'm using classes to target the items more precisely in CSS, instead of using you know, OL with an ID of sidebar and then list item and then UL. And that method actually creates a huge problem sometimes because of inherited lists between inherited styles between the lists. So I'm gonna do this. Give a class a full width list. Do the same here, and now we can just go ahead and style those individual lists. So let's see, UL full width list, and let's take a look, see how they look like. Okay, so full width list, list item. Let's grab the border first. So we'll have a border. Okay. And then this kind of this quote here, or the actual comment, is italic, and inside the list it's it's wrapped inside a span. So ul full width list item, and span. Color is gonna be this, so we'll get this effect. And notice that on the PSD, the comment is actually on its own separate line, and we can do that pretty easy by including line breaks like this. But an even easier way is just to go to the CSS and say display block, and that's going to give the span a width of 100%, so it's going to push it down between the two elements. Right, and next, font style italic, so we get this. Okay, very cool. So I don't think we need to do much here. We have this, we have the article, we have the link with the correct color, 12 pixels, and now let's just push down the actual list elements. So first thing that we need to do, get rid of that margin for the paragraph. So full width list paragraph, and just say margin margin none. Okay, and then let's see, list items. We're going to set margin bottom about 10 pixels, and that pushes the elements down, and then a padding bottom of 10 pixels, so we get this. Okay, pretty cool. And actually I just realized no need to put an extra padding here. We can just use that margin from the paragraph, and it's gonna look the same. So we have where are you, margin bottom for the list item, and that's gonna push this list item down from here. And then we have the margin bottom of 10 pixels for this paragraph, which will just push the list element down. Okay guys, let's see what else. So we have recent comments, we have the tweets, and the last thing that we need to do is just push down this other widget. So to do that, we're going to go to full width list, to the actual list. Oops. And we're going to say margin bottom is going to be 30 pixels. Sorry, 40 pixels. And that's going to push down the other elements. Okay guys, so we're done with this, the blog posts, and we're done with the sidebar here, And previously we did the menu and we did the search. We did the search bar, which doesn't look anything like a search bar. So let's go ahead and address that real quick. Go to here, and we're gonna add. We need a placeholder. That's what it's called, a placeholder for our input. And just to demonstrate that real quick, we're going to say placeholder type and hit enter, for instance. Yeah. So the placeholder is something like this. You click to type something, and when you click out, you just get the placeholder text, and this can be anything, which is very cool. Except what I use here, placeholder, is HTML5 only, and that means it won't work in some browsers, and that's a problem because without this placeholder you don't really know that this is a search form. So just to compensate for all the other browsers, we're gonna use the onBlur and onFocus effects. So let's say onFocus, which is when you click on the input. So onFocus, it's going to be something like this. If this dot value equals to enter or search here, then this dot value is going to be none. On blur, and I'm going to explain this in just a bit, we're going to have if this dot value is equal to nothing, then this dot value will be equal to search here. Okay, and one last thing, let's set an initial default value of search here. Okay, so let's just check real quick if it's working. Okay, good. And now explanations. We set the original value, the default one, so that you have something to look at when you first load the page. Then on focus, when we click on it, we verify if what we have inside is the default text, then we clear it. On blur, which is when we click out, if this value is none, so we don't have anything typed in, we assign the value of search here, which is the default text. Now, if you're wondering why we need to verify, well, what happens if we don't verify and we click in, we input something, and then we click back out? If we don't verify, the value is just going to return to to the default one. So that's why if we have a value that's different from the default one, when we click out, that stays in. Okay, so I hope that was clear enough. And I just saw this kind of oversight here. If you take a look at our PSD, the home button is actually not a link because it's the actual active link. So let's go back to code and check this real quick. Yep, we have an anchor tag with an ID of active menu item, and I forgot to style that. So go back to master CSS in the top section. Where are you? in the menu section actually. And let's just say A with an ID of active menu item. Background is going to be none, and the color is going to be this. And let's see if we got it right. No, we haven't. And that's because we probably need to target it more precisely. So ul nav list item A with an ID of active menu item, and that should work now. Okay, there it is. Now it's working. Okay, good. So with that out of the way, now it's time to take care of this footer section right here with the archives and all the other widgets, and about the author, subscribe sections, and then finally we have the copyright info section. So let's take a quick look at the PSD. Okay. Alright, well, this should be pretty easy. So yeah, let's get started to it.